Trump commits to orderly transition of power. Sri Lanka Freedom Party criticised. Murder of journalist Lasantha Wickrematunge marks 12 years. Culprits still roam free. The human-elephant conflict takes 4 more lives.
Hello there, very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Martin Satyanesan. President Donald Trump is conceding to President-elect Joe Biden and condemning the violent supporters who stormed the nation's capital Wednesday. In a new video message, Trump says that now that the Congress has certified the results, the new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th, and his focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly and seamless transition of power.
I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem. I immediately deployed the National Guard and federal law enforcement to secure the building and expel the intruders. America is and must always be a nation of law and order. The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay. We have just been through an intense election and emotions are high, but now tempers must be cooled and calm restored. We must get on with the business of America. My campaign vigorously pursued every legal avenue to contest the election results. My only goal was to ensure the integrity of the vote. In so doing, I was fighting to defend American democracy. I continue to strongly believe that we must reform our election laws to verify the identity and eligibility of all voters and to ensure faith and confidence in all future elections. Now Congress has certified the results. A new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th. My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power. This moment calls for healing and reconciliation.
U.S. President Donald Trump has committed to an orderly transition of power a day after his supporters stormed Congress, provoking world condemnation. Allowed back on Twitter following a suspension, the Republican president decried the rioters' heinous attack. He spoke as top Democrats called for him to be removed from office just 13 days before he is due to step down. Trump's remarks were widely seen as his first public acknowledgement of defeat in November's election. In the clip, he barely touched on his baseless claims of voter fraud, which had riled die-hard supporters on Wednesday outside the White House. During that rally, he urged the crowds to head for the Capitol, where they forced their way inside. The breach of the seat of U.S. government led to the evacuation of shocked lawmakers, postponing for several hours their certification of President-elect Joe Biden's victory over Trump. Meanwhile, China's state media said today that the assault on the U.S. Capitol by supporters of President Donald Trump reflects a failure of leadership as well as a deep divide running through American society. Law enforcement in the United States have been heavily criticized after they were overrun by the protesters. Joe Biden stated, I quote, "Nobody could tell me that if it was a group of Black Lives Matter protesters yesterday, they wouldn't have been treated very differently than the thugs that stormed the Capitol," unquote. Images captured inside the Capitol building showed protesters roaming through some of the corridors unimpeded. However, one officer has been placed on leave after fatally shooting a female demonstrator in the house. Washington police say 68 people have so far been arrested, only one of them from the D.C. area. Meanwhile, a Baghdad court has issued an arrest warrant for the U.S. President Donald Trump as a part of its investigations into the killing of top Iraqi paramilitary commander Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis last year. Al-Muhandis, the deputy commander of the Popular Mobilization Forces in Iraq, was killed in the same U.S. drone strike as top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani near Baghdad airport on January 3, 2020. The attack on their motorcade was ordered by Trump, who later boasted it had taken out 2 for the price of 1. Iran already issued a warrant for Trump's arrest in June and asked Interpol to relay it as so-called red notice to other police forces around the world, a request that has so far gone unmet. The court for East Baghdad issued the warrant for Trump's arrest under an article entrenched in its penal code, which provides for the death penalty in all cases of premeditated murder. According to a statement released by Supreme Judicial Council of Iraq yesterday, the court decided to issue the arrest warrant for the outgoing president of the US, Donald Trump, after the completion of the preliminary investigation procedures. It also added that the investigation procedures will continue to find out the other participants in the implementation of this crime. The chair of the House Homeland Security Panel has called on the FBI and TSA to expand the federal no-fly list to include all who took part in unrest at the U.S. Capitol this week, calling the incident a domestic terrorist attack. Democratic Representative Benny Thompson of Mississippi, the chairman of the House committee, said national law enforcement must stop anyone present at the Capitol riot from flying unfettered after supporters of President Donald Trump forced their way into the building during a rally on Wednesday, prompting an evacuation of officials and staff.
In calling for this seditious act, the President has committed an unspeakable assault on our nation and our people. I join the Senate Democratic leader in calling on the Vice President to remove this President by immediately invoking the 25th Amendment. If the Vice President and Cabinet do not act, the Congress may be prepared to move forward with impeachment. That is the overwhelming sentiment of my caucus. And the American people, by the way.
The 122nd birth commemoration of former Prime Minister and founder of Sri Lanka Freedom Party, SWRD Bandaranaike, was held at his statue at Golface Green today. We now cross over to Newsfirst Chaturanga Hapuarachi to know about what transpired at the commemoration ceremony earlier today.
Yes, Martin, there is a lot of political attention on the Sri Lanka Freedom Party with regard to these discussions that are ongoing about the provincial council elections and the future of the government, because SLFP also holds a significant position in the political sphere at present. Now, as you mentioned, the 122nd birth commemoration of SWRD Bandaranaike, the founder of the SLFP, was to be held at 8 a.m. However, former President Chandrika Bandaranaike arrived at the location earlier, around 7 a.m. and carried out her events and paid floral tributes at the location. Now, this is where things get interesting. Former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga says that she is disappointed with the current status of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and about how the leadership took steps to bring the SLFP and hang it on to the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. Now, of course, former President Chandrika Bandaranaike was referring to Maithripala Sirisena, the former president. Now, there were several other people who were at that location who came for the event thereafter. One such character was Kumara Welgama, who contested from the Samagi Jana Balawegaya with the current opposition leaders faction. Now, he was asked why he is here and his involvement with the SLFP. He said that it was his duty to pay tribute to the founder of the SLFP because his political roots are from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. He says that he contested from the SJB because the SLFP did not want to contest at the general election. He also says that the leaders of this party are the people who took this party to the brink of destruction, and he adds that he himself thinks he is suitable for the leadership of the SLFP and that he is willing to bring up and develop the party once again. Then comes former President Maithripala Sirisena. He was asked as to why former President Chandrika Bandaranaike arrived at the location before him and paid floral tributes and started the event. He says that he is happy that the former president arrived there to commence the event, and he also says that the former president and Maithripala Sirisena, also former president, are working very closely together to develop the party. He says, now that is where things get even more interesting. He's asked about the future of the government and the involvement of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party with the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, and his answer is, we'll wait and see what is going to happen. This is what transpired in the morning today with regard to the SLFP celebrations, Martin.
Thank you very much, Chaturanga, for that comprehensive update. Moving along, 4 wild elephants have died in the Valikanda and Anuradhapura areas. 3 wild elephants have died at 3 locations in Dimbulagada and Valikanda due to electric shocks and Hakkapatas explosives. 2 of the elephants were electrocuted. This was in Aselapura and Kasanvava areas. An elephant was electrocuted near a land near Kasanvava. It is a 20-year-old elephant. The elephant who died in Aselapura is a 25-year-old elephant. Another wild elephant has died after being injured by eating Hakkapatas explosives in the Maguldaman area in Dimbulagala. The body of the wild elephant was found in a forest in Maguldamana. Wild officials have launched an operation to arrest the suspects in the killing of the 2 elephants that died due to electrocutions. Groups of cattle has been reported roaming in the Chilau city.
According to our correspondent, cattle can be seen on the Colombo-Chilau main road and on the adjoining roads in the area. Area residents point out that accidents due to these cattle roaming free are a common occurrence. It has been reported that as of now, about 400 cows roam free in the area. We have no way of driving in the road. Cows can be seen. We can't travel on the Colombo road. No one looks into this issue. It is impossible to see when we dim the lights. The vehicles get collapsed with the cattle. Meanwhile, the Department of Animal Production and Health states that a previously unrecognized viral disease is spreading among cattle. The department stated that the disease has now spread to 14 districts.
China has placed 11 million people in the northern city of Xiangwang under lockdown after more than 100 new COVID cases were confirmed.
Schools have also been closed. More than 5,000 testing sites have been set up, so every resident can be tested. The new figures are the highest China has seen in more than 5 months. The country has been able to contain such outbreaks by immediately taking tough action. This has involved consistently using mass testing when new clusters of cases appear, even if they seem relatively small. Hubei province, where Shijianghuang is located, reported 120 new cases yesterday, and all but one of those infections was in the city.
We apologize for the technical difficulty experienced earlier. The story one more time. State Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara has been tested positive for COVID-19.
State Minister said that he is currently receiving treatment at the COVID treatment center in Hikkadu. Dayasiri Jayasekara also stated that he was admitted to the treatment center last night. Meanwhile, the University Grants Commission has been temporarily closed due to the discovery of an individual infected with COVID-19. Minister of Education Professor G.L. Pires stated this in Parliament.
I am requesting time to answer the question raised by MP Andrukumar Disanayaka. The reason being, there was an individual who tested positive for COVID-19 at the Higher Education Ministry and the University Grants Commission. As a result of that, the University Grants Commission was closed completely. 50 PCR tests were conducted. As a result of identifying scientific fact, in order to answer your question, I am requesting more time from you.
Lasantha Vikramatunga. Today is the 12th year remembrance of the untimely and yet unresolved death of a fearless journalist. An event to commemorate the Lasantha Vikramatunga was held at the Borella Cemetery in the early hours of today.
On a fateful day like today, a dozen years ago, Lasantha Vikramatunga, the editor of the Sunday Leader newspaper, was assassinated. The commemoration to remember and reflect upon his bravery was held opposite his memorial at the Borella Cemetery. Loved ones, colleagues, fellow journalists and numerous politicians attended the ceremony. We commemorate him here today because he was a fearless journalist of this country. He stood strong for the truth and justice in society. He has been awarded an award which is presented annually to one person in the whole world, but he only was awarded this grave for his own country. It is the award given to him from Sri Lanka. On the 8th of January 2009, humanity, justice and media freedom was dealt a killer blow. Lasantha Vikramatunga, you were a kindred soul, a larger-than-life character and an unafraid senior journalist. You and our network share bittersweet memories, and yet you were a constant present in the face of adversity and triumph. A man of many talents and gifts, Lasantha launched the Sunday Leader newspaper to reflect his undeterred commitment towards revealing the truth to the masses. He was both admired and commended for his work and his fearless reporting, regardless of who was ensconced in the seat of power. He paved new paths in the field of investigative journalism, to the surprise and awe of his followers and the dismay of his critics. His demise has left a vacuum in the field which is yet to be filled. Lasantha Wickrematunge raised his defiant voice on the day MTV-MBC broadcasting complex in Deparnama was brutally attacked. We need to stand against acts of terror. This is not the first time such an attack has occurred. Unfortunately, it won't be the last either. We need to face this together. All media institutions must band together to face it.
තත්ත්වයට මුහුණ දීමට සූදානම් මාධ්‍ය ආයතන සියලු දෙනා එක්මුතු වී මෙයට මුහුණ දීමට සූදානම් විය යුතු බව පැහැදිලිව කිය යුතුයි.
It is said, the pen is mightier than the sword. You were the literal embodiment of that saying. Unfortunately, is that ethos which cost you your life. Lasantha breathed his last, travelling along the Dehiwala-Attidiya road. He was on his way to his workplace, where, if not for a cowardly attack by assassins, Lasantha could have continued to expose the awful corruption which has marred the country for way too long. A dozen years have passed since his demise, and the killers are yet to be identified, let alone brought to justice. The origins of his cowardly attack on a national treasure such as Lasantha continue to puzzle us all.
That we bring to a close this edition of Lunchtime News on TV1. For details of these stories and much more, simply log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Martin Satyanesan. You have yourself a wonderful day.